Hi, it's Lindsay with Mamammilla Lactation. So this video is going to be about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, the transition to motherhood. So for most of us, motherhood kind of blindsides us. I don't know if it's necessarily something that you can actually prepare for fully until you're there. I'll just share a brief anecdote. The other day, honestly, I walked into a postpartum room and this mom was like, just weeping. And she was talking about her anxieties. Her baby was in the NICU. She was talking about her anxieties about like being separated from her child, how she felt like a part of her was just ripped out of her body and is too far away. And she couldn't sleep because her kid was over there. And it was one of the more poignant birth of a mother experiences I had, but it was just a wonderful reminder that we do need to be born, kind of reborn as mothers, and in that we also have to kind of mourn. This topic makes me teary. Kind of mourn who we were before kiddos. And so if you're pre-kiddo, word to the wise, just give yourself just a ton of affirmations. It's a big transition. It's a super big transition, and again, we can't really prepare for it until we have those crazy hormonal changes that happen with being able to sustain a life hormonally, to releasing a placenta, and then suddenly we have this like crazy wave train of emotion. With my first child, I was pretty ill prepared. I think kind of everybody is, because like oh, how hard could it be? And you're so pumped, right? You're so pumped to be a mom. And so there's that is kind of like the overshadowing experience, which again, fully valid, 100% what I want you to feel. And very much so part of the equation. But I think one thing that's cool about becoming a mom is that it's much more complex than that. Like, you can be excited and totally sad. You can be stoked for this new life and mourning what was lost. You can feel this like heightened anxiety and fear and just be this like bedrock of calm in your family. It's this crazy thing that happens. You'll be great. It's wild. But I want to share with you an awesome research project that I found while working with Grow Baby. If you haven't checked them out, check them out. Pretty amazing duo. So I was doing a little bit of research for Grow Baby, and one thing that I found, there was a research study out of South America, and they mapped mothers' brains after the positive pregnancy test at the first prenatal visit, and then again at the postpartum, like directly postpartum. So what was found was that the amygdala, which is part of our brain, it's like layman's term known as the fear center. So the amygdala in these women, like 25,000, huge cohort, giant. The amygdala grew between 10 and 30% in volume. Like anatomically, the amygdala got 10 to 30% larger. Like, that's substantial. So your fear center is 10 to 30% more chatty. And then the hippocampus of these women, which is the memory center, decreased between 10 and 30% to accommodate the volume of the amygdala. So if you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint, it's kind of awesome. So the amygdala, obviously the fear center, so like moms who are afraid of a saber-toothed tiger coming around the corner, they kind of kept their kids closer and kept their kids alive. And so their kind of like major maternal instinct kept their kids living, and then their brains kept passing down. And then the moms that forgot about how awesome the postpartum phase is, which, heads up if you haven't been there yet, had more babies. So it's I found it to be an incredibly validating study. But I find that when I share this postpartum with families, both partners start crying, because it's like the mom who has not previously been risk averse is heightened and totally risk averse and can't remember jack, like keys in the hand, can't remember where they are. You're talking to a woman who ran her car out of gas twice in her life, and both were in the postpartum period. Like, the hippocampal shrinkage is real. And also talking to a woman who I was never, ever in my life risk averse. And I became phenomenally risk averse, which was very hard for my partner. And so it's a great conversation to have with your partner of being like, hey, my amygdala is huge and my hippocampus is tiny. So mom brain, totally proven. I found this after my first child and I showed my spouse and was like, check it out. He was like, that explains so much. Yes. Yeah. So I think that the postpartum period is one of the most phenomenally moving moments of our life, and it's not talked about enough. So moms feel very isolated. In our cultures, especially, oftentimes we're like away from our families. Some have rock star sweet support system, which amen, do that, because that's better. But oftentimes you feel really alone. And so I wanted to make this video just to tell you that you have substantial brain changes happening within your body that are incredibly important evolutionarily, but can be really hard relationally. So show your partner too if you have got a partner around. And if you don't got a partner around, know that your amygdala is heightened. And so after that study, I had to tell my spouse, like, hey, I think that there is going to be a bear around this corner. Can you please just like understand that the reason I'm lagging behind is because I'm making sure that my kids are in front of me. You know, there's like little things about a mom that are just awesome. Like, one thing I find also is that moms, like a siren could be blaring and they will not hear it sleeping, but if their kid sighs, they're like 100% awake. Yeah, so as a partner, heads up partner, it's feed your lady water. It's very thirsty work. And B, if you're gonna try to like take over, like take the baby out of the room, like take baby out of the room so she can sleep, because any sound that baby makes, mom will be completely turned on, ready to be fully cognizant. So it can be a little bit overwhelming and really hard to find that good rest that is so needed after your body goes through birthing. And people are getting more and more open to the idea of birth, like the birth is a trauma. Like it's physiologically and physically what you have to do to bring a baby into this world is a pretty traumatic. And so instead of being like, oh, motherhood, like, ooh, rainbows, the people who talk about it like that probably had major hippocampal shrinkage. It is magical. There are unicorns everywhere, but there's also so much intensity and a lot of new emotions to navigate. So please know that there's like a ton of, there's some good postpartum blues and postpartum depression medication that you can take if you need it. So if you find that you can't regulate after the first 2 weeks, so give it 2 weeks. Oftentimes moms will be like, oh my gosh, am I going to feel like this forever? When I see them like postpartum immediately and then day 3 and day 5, they're like, this is not sustainable. But give it 2 weeks, because typically it takes about 2 weeks for our body to figure out how to navigate the progestin drop that happens. Progesterone drop that happens when the placenta leaves. So give it 2 weeks, but if you can't regulate, please reach out to your provider. There are so many good kind of mood stabilizers that help in that initial postpartum period. I, for one, wish I was aware of that more. I had postpartum depression pretty severely for like a year. Like, I mean, it was substantial. But again, being in the medical field, you're just like, whatever, like this is just part of it. But it can be better. It can be better than that. And so self-care is enormous, which is kind of impossible. So if any partners are watching this, please like take the baby and say, go on a walk, like go leave the house, and kind of navigate what it is to be a mother now. It's pretty significant. It's awesome, but it's very significant. And it does take a little bit of mourning and processing of who you were before you became a mom. That being said, some women I meet have never been happier and never want to return to the person they were before they got pregnant. So it's just a supercharged situation, and I encourage you to give it its credence. I believe in you. You're doing great. You're exactly who your baby needs. All my best to you, and I hope that you enjoy these videos.